disrupt the enemy soldiers. Moving to the center of the battlefield, Thorn advanced at the forefront of the Wolfkin, his Tetsubo clearing a path through the forest as he smashed through the enemy. Fleeing faster and faster, it was clear that the only thing that kept the Dirgehold army from a complete rout was that the soldiers in the back had not yet understood what the sound of clashing metal and screaming actually represented. But as more and more of the Dirgehold soldiers abandoned their positions and fled, Thorn could tell that the fight was about to turn. About to give the order to speed up their advance, Thorn suddenly paused, his eyes narrowing as he swept the enemy formation. There was a hint of killing intent that he had not noticed before, present among the enemies. Thorn had rarely encountered people who could enhance their presence to the point where their murderous desire became tangible, but he was familiar with the feeling from his fights against monsters and devil. Sending his awareness out, he spotted a large block of soldiers that were marching swiftly toward him, causing the other soldiers to flee to get out of the way. Heavily armored to the point that not a scrap of skin could be seen, the soldiers moved swiftly, large halberds clutched in front of them. As Thorn watched, an unfortunate Dirgehold soldier failed to get out of the way in time and was ruthlessly trampled by the heavy armored infantry. Heavy metal boots pounded the ground, and a cheer rose up as the surrounding soldiers saw this new unit advancing, drowning out the muffled cries of the trampled soldier.
Major Sifir.
Yes, Your Majesty?
There is an elite unit coming. Begin the second stage of the plan.
Yes, Your Majesty, Sifir said, saluting. Unlike before, the Wolfkin Major had no qualms about executing Thorn's order, and immediately began passing on the commands. The Wolfkin army continued to push forward, but the Wolfkin units in the center of the battlefield slowed, while the Wolfkin on the flanks picked up speed. Spreading out until there was only a thin layer of Wolfkin troops holding the central line around Thorn, the majority of the Wolfkin pushed out to the rivers on either side of the forest and began to sweep down, forming a horseshoe shape that continued to advance, forcing the terrified enemy back in toward the center of the forest. Striding forward, Thorn began to go over what was about to happen in his head. The Dirgehold Duchy, like all of the duchies, had its own elite units. Where the Ironhold Duchy had the Thunderwalker Army and the Cloudwave Duchy had the Storm Riders, the Dirgehold Duchy had a unit called the Dread Infantry. Unlike the highly elite smaller units of the other duchies, the Dread Infantry were almost 15,000 strong. They formed the backbone of the Dirgehold army,